Oh, hello there. I'm Rosina Plain, and today I'd like to take you through a new design that I've come up with. It's called, as you can see, Hugs, because let's face it, at the end of 2020, one thing we're probably all a little short of is hugs. This pattern is done slightly different to my normal ones. I haven't actually had a chance to write up the full written instructions as I usually do, so it is just a chart. But what I thought I would do is just run you through how to do it with a video, so hopefully you won't miss the written instructions. So you can use any yarn you wish for this. Just make sure you'll need two colours. So I've got this lovely burnt orange colour, which is going to be my colour 1, and a wine. Nice autumnal, warm, cheerful colours. You can use any yarn you wish, any weight you wish. Just make sure really that both of the colours are a similar weight. So if you've got lots and lots of worsted weight or Aran, then just make sure they're both the same. And then just the hook size, I'm using mainly a 4mm hook. If you're using a heavier yarn, you'll probably want to use a larger hook. So just use the hook size that is recommended for the yarn you're using. I've also got here a slightly larger hook, a 4.5mm hook, which I'm just going to use for my starting chain because I tend to make them a little bit tighter than I do the rest of my work, so that will just stop that bottom pulling in. If you can work your chain nice and evenly like the rest of your stitches, you won't need the larger hook. Right, so to get started, firstly let me apologise for the quality of the print on my chart that I've printed off here. My printer was playing up a bit and it's not the best quality, but rest assured that if you look at it on your screen, or probably if you use your own printer, it should come out nice and clear. So as I said, I'm using burnt orange as my colour 1, so pick that up, and I know you need to start with 41 stitches. So it says at the bottom you've got the 41 stitches. Now it's up to you how you do that. You may like to do a foundation double crochet. I personally have kind of got out of the habit of doing that. I actually prefer now to do just a simple chain, and then we'll work into the back bump, so I'll show you that later. So when I start my chain, I don't do a slip knot because I find the knot quite annoying. Just wrap it round like so, and then pull through, but don't pull that tight. So that's effectively like having your slip knot but leaving it nice and loose. So that becomes now my first chain. So I now need to make another 40. So we've got one chain already, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got 41, and I'm now actually going to need an extra one because I'm using chain, so that's 42. This last one becomes a turning chain, so we're not going to be working into it. We just need that to get our hook up to the right place. So I've now used my larger hook for that. I'm going to swap to my 4mm hook, which I'll be using for the rest of it. So a little tip I discovered, rather than working as you normally would into this part of the chain here, if you actually just twist that chain round, you see there's a little bump on the back. So if you insert your hook in there and work your double crochet into that, that'll actually give you a nice neat edge. So just carry on along the chain, or say if you were doing a foundation double crochet, that's absolutely fine. That would all be on the first bit, but we will end up at the end of this with 41 double crochets. So just carry along and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so I'm now almost at the end of my first row, so I've just got the last 2 stitches to do. So stitch 40 is going to go into the back loop as we've been doing all the way along, or the back bump as we've been doing all along. And then when I get to the last stitch, you can see there's not really a back loop to work into. This is effectively, like I said, it's a loose slip knot at the beginning, so I'm going to work my last stitch into that. So that's my 41st stitch, and now I'll just pull that tighter. So you can see we haven't got this extra sort of knot at the end there, it's all included in it. Right, so I just wanted to show you why I was working into that little back bump rather than into the actual loops of the chains. So hopefully you can see there. You get quite a nice neat edge. It looks very similar actually to the top edge of the stitches where you get the little V's for the 2 loops. The bottom now looks the same. I just think that's a nicer edge, but it's entirely up to you how you start. Say you can do ordinary double crochets as you normally would into a chain, or do your foundation double crochet. Now as we're doing overlay mosaic crochet on here, all of your stitches will be worked from the right side, but you're only using one row of each colour. So obviously we've now got to the end of the row, we need to get back to the beginning. So to do that we're going to have to cut our yarn. So I should have said you'll also need a pair of scissors. So we just cut that off. Don't cut it too short, just cut it to about there. And then we'll pull that through that loop there just to fasten it off. Okay, so that's our first row done. So now we're going to pick up our next colour, colour 2, and I'm using this nice wine colour. So again, to start with, basically you want to start with a standing double crochet. So if you've never done that before, don't worry, it's nice and easy. You start with a slip knot on your hook. Now the way I do it may not be a strict slip knot, but I find this works for me. I start like I did with the chain, just wrap it around like that, pull it through, but this time pull it tight to start with. So there we go, there's your slip knot. You need that because we need to make sure we keep it nice and secure on the end so it doesn't come undone. So now all you do, make sure you're at the top of your chain. Be able to see that's where we fastened off. You just work double crochet as normal. So around there, like so, you've got your 2 loops on your hook and pull it through. So that is the only, well, there's 2 stitches on each row that will be a proper double crochet through both loops. For when we're doing mosaic overlay mosaic crochet, most of our stitches are going to be worked into one or other of the loops. So every double crochet along the main part of the pattern is going to be worked into the back loops only. So rather than working through both loops like that as you normally would, work just into the back loop there. So that's our first one. So double crochet into the back loop. So we're going to do this all the way along until we get to the last stitch, and you can see hopefully there that you've got the front loops are left nice and free, because we're going to need them later on when we make the pattern. So you have to just carry on working along, working your double crochet into every stitch except for the last one. So I'll meet you at the end of the row. So I'm now almost at the end of row 2 of the chart. So I'm just going to work, I've got 2 stitches left, so the second from last is still going to be a back loop double crochet, but in that last one, just to sort of firm up the edges a little, I'm going to work through both loops. So it's just a standard double crochet at the end. So we pull that out there like that, cut that off, and then just pull through the loop to fasten that off and secure the end. Okay, so if you check the chart, you'll see row 3 is exactly the same. So we're now going to go back to our colour 1 and do exactly the same on row 3 as we did on row 2. So that means starting with standing double crochet, so there's the slip knot, double crochet through both loops of that first stitch, and then the back loop double crochet right the way along, so just into the back loops like so, all the way along until you get to the end, and on that very last stitch do an ordinary double crochet through both loops, and I will see you there. So I've now just completed my 3rd row, which is just a nice simple row of back loop double crochets all the way along, apart from those 2 edge stitches. So at each end we just worked 1 standard double crochet through both loops. Now I just want to show you the chart for row 4. So I don't know if you can see here, again apologies for the terrible print quality, this the colour 2 row, and you can see this is where the pattern starts. Now it looks as if you're going to need to change colour there to put your colour 1 in there, but you don't. It's just with overlay mosaic, you just do 1 row in each colour. The important thing you need to know is to look out for these F's. So where you can see an F, that means that is where you will work a treble lower down to cover over. There's no F's on row 4. So that just means we just carry on just as we did on rows 2 and 3. We're going to start with a standard double crochet and then single crochet, I've just gone into US terms, and then double crochet all the way along in the back loops only till we get to the end when we do another standard double loop through both loops, standard double crochet through both loops. So we'll do that again, and I will meet you at the start of round 5. Right, so we're now ready to start the pattern proper. So if we look again at our chart, you'll see on row 5 here, we're still starting with our normal double crochet, and you just need to count up these little squares, and you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to be doing 11 back loop double crochets as we've been doing before, and then we get to an F, and so I will show you what to do when we get there. So again, as we did before, start with the standard double crochet, and then we're going to do our 11 back loop double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 10, 11. Now we get to where we said an F on the chart. Now a lot of designers will put an X there when they mean it, and they will make all this next stitch a mosaic treble. I have avoided doing that because there's actually more than one type of mosaic crochet, and you create the pattern in a different way. So I have now gone for an F. I use an F to say that's the front loop treble that you now need to do. So what we've got to do, if you look across, we're now going to start using some of these front loops that we haven't used before. If you just straighten it all out to see where you've got to go, you can see the next stitch we'd normally be working into this loop here. So what we need to do is come down straight below and work our treble into this front loop here. So there we go. So treble in there, and that is now starting to create the pattern. So if you want to just make sure that you haven't slipped one way or the other, I mean you can see that's quite straight, but you can always, as a double check, just count the front loops before. So if we now count here, we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 unused front loops, so we know we're in the right place. So now we've done that, what you need to make sure now is that you miss the stitch behind there and work the next back loop double crochet in there. So if you check the chart, you'll see you now need to do, there's got to be 5 back loop double crochets. So I've already just done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now it's time for another front loop treble. So yarn over, make sure you're in the right place, into that front loop and create your treble. And again, we can double check that we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 unused front loops, so we know we're in the right place. If you now check the chart, you'll see we can just back loop double crochet all the way to the end, apart from that last edge stitch, which will be an ordinary double crochet. So like I said before, make sure you miss this stitch behind, and then back loop double crochet in each stitch until you get to the end, and I will see you there. Right, so I've now completed row 5 and I've just started row 6 with my little edge stitch, so that double crochet there. And we're now going to do, if you check the chart, this time it's got to be 12 back loop double crochets, so we'll just do those together. 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 12. So that 12th one should end up on top of that front loop treble we did on the last row. So now we have got to do, if you check the chart, 5 front loop trebles. So we're going to fill in this here with our treble. So wrap yarn over into that first loop. There we go, 1 treble, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we are. So you can see how the pattern starts to develop. So what we're going to do now, if you check the chart again, there's no more F's on this row. So we're going to make sure we miss those 5 there. Start again there. And as we did before, back loop, double crochet right up until the last stitch, when you'll just do an ordinary double crochet. And I'll see you then. Right, so I've actually now started row 7. So that's what it looks like so far. So I've started row 7 with my standard double crochet, and now I've done, if you have a little count up, it's 10 back loop double crochets, and that then gets me to the first F on this row. So as before, front loop treble 2 down, we'll go into there. So now have a little look at the chart and you'll see there's not another F until 8 stitches time. So we've got to now double crochet into the back loops for the next 7 stitches. 2, 3, 6, 7, and that front loop treble in the next stitch. So we're still working on that little sort of tail bit of the G. But again, check the chart, you read along. That's all of the front loop ones we need to worry about for now. So we can now do our back loop double crochets right up until the last stitch, when we'll do a normal double crochet. So I've now done the 7 rows there. What I should have said before is do always keep counting. So every row when you're doing overlay mosaic crochet should always have the same number of stitches, unless of course you're increasing, but we're not in this. It's going to be a square. So just make sure at the end of every row that you've still got 41 stitches. If you find that you're gaining or losing them, it's probably at either end. Sometimes people have trouble finding the last stitch, or maybe think that this little knot or something at the end is an extra stitch. So if you find that happens to you, just try, when you've done the first and last stitch of each row, just pop a little stitch marker in there and you'll know where you've got to start and end next time. Also, if you lose track of where you are rows wise, number of rows, then you can always count up your tails. Just remember, if you see on here, because where we did it, we didn't actually have a tail on row 1 because we've got actually 2 at the other end, so just double check that. But you can see I have now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tails, and one that I should have had there. So that just confirms that I've just completed row 7. So for row 8, just the same as before. Start with a slip knot and a standard double crochet in there, and then what we're going to do, we're going to be working 11, there'll be 11 back loop double crochets, and then we've got just 2 front loop ones, 3 back, 2 front, and then we'll be doing the double crochets to the end again. So just look at the chart there and remember it's just the F's you need to worry about. So wherever you see an F, do a front loop treble into that loop 2 rows below, and all of the other stitch is going to be back loop double crochet. So I'll see you when you've done that. Okay, so I've now started my row 9. So I've started with, as usual, the edge stitch, the 1 normal double crochet. I've just done 10 double crochets into those back loops. So now again, check the chart and you'll see you've got front loop front loop treble there, then that will be 2 back loop double crochets, 3 in the front, 2 behind and another front one, and then we'll be back loop double crocheting to the end. So just show you again, if you want a reminder, that the front loop treble goes in there. So we're then going to do a back loop double crochets into those 2 stitches there, and then we've got, just insert that in there, the 3 trebles into these front loops here. So we're now starting to get the tail of our G looking a bit more defined. Okay, so 2 back loops double crochets, 1 front loop treble, and as always just make sure whenever you've done a treble there that you miss the stitches behind. So we might make sure we miss that one, and then double crochet there, and we will be double crocheting right to the end of the row, except for the last one where we'll do that'll be back loop double crochet right to the end of the row, apart from at the end where we'll do just an ordinary double crochet. So we're now up to row 10, about to start row 10. If you look on the chart, this is where we're now starting to do the bottom of all of our letters rather than just the tail of the G. But if you look closely, you'll see actually we still only have a couple of stitches where we have to do the front loop treble. All the rest are actually going to be back loop double crochet. So it is just these 2 stitches here for the tail. So we'll go across as normal, ordinary double crochet, back loops double crochets there, 2 front loop trebles, and then the back loop double crochets all the way along, except for the last stitch, which as always is an ordinary double crochet. So you just do that and I will meet you at row 11. Okay, so we're now ready to start row 11, and this is where it gets a little bit trickier with following where you've got to put all the stitches, but if you just take one at a time you'll be fine. So you can see we start here, we've got our edge stitch, we've got 3 back loop double crochets, then the 1 front loop treble which we're going to do there, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 back loop double crochets, 1 front loop treble. So just follow the chart along like that, counting 1 stitch at a time. So every time you've got a blank square you're going to be doing a back loop double crochet, and wherever you see an F, remember to do that front loop treble 2 rows below. And then I'll meet you at the end of row 11. So I've now got to the end here of row 11, and just remember to keep counting carefully and following the chart, and you should find that after your last front loop treble there, which is this one here, just framing that H, you can see you should have 2 back loop double crochets before you get to your edge stitch. And as you can see, that's what we've got there. So that's a way of double checking that you've got it all right. So okay, I'm just going to now leave you to do the next couple of rows following the chart. So again, the colours are on the chart just to show you what the pattern is meant to look like. Remember that you change the colour every time. You don't change colours within the row at all. So each row is just a single colour. And just to remember that the only ones you need to worry about that are different are where you see an F. So all of your stitches across, apart from the 2 edge stitches, are back loop double crochets, and wherever you see an F you just do a front loop treble 2 rows below, and that's what creates the pattern. So I'll leave you to do rows 12 and 13, and I'll see you when you've done those. So I've now finished row 13, and I just wanted to show it to you sort of to compare it to the chart. So hopefully you can see where we're at and how it looks like the chart. So say it's nice and straightforward. Like we say, it's just the 2 stitches that well 3 technically, with the 2 edge stitches being normal double crochets. In between all of your background stitches are going to be back loop double crochets, and then you just create your pattern where every time you see an F on the chart you make that front loop treble 2 down. So you carry on. So we've done row 13. I'm going to meet you again after you've done row 21, so we should really be able to start to see where it says hugs. So yeah, just do the next few rows and I will meet you at the end of row 21. Okay, so I've now actually finished row 21 as I said, but before I show you that, something I should have mentioned before, it can get a little tricky keeping an eye on exactly where you are in a row as you get further up the chart. So lots of different ways you can do it. You can get the proper little sort of document stands with a little slidey sort of ruler that goes up, or just lay it on a desk in front of you if that's possible, and just put a ruler over it and you'll be able to see, like here we've got row 15, and it's really easy to just count along, see where the F's are and do it then. So that's entirely up to you how you do that. So anyway, here is my swatch after row 21. So you can see we haven't quite finished the H, but other than that you can definitely see it's starting to say hugs. You may also notice that it does lean ever so slightly to the right. That's perfectly normal when it comes to overlay crochet, because we're just working on the right side, but it's not nearly as noticeable on the finished piece as it would be if you were working into both loops. So that's fine. All we can do, if you block it, that's great, or just a little tug, to be honest. Just pull it into shape, and that seems to just like sort of straighten up the stitches, because you're only working into the front and back loops. There's a little bit more give for them to be able to straighten up. So okay, there we are. So that's at row 21, and you can see where we are now. We're about to start on row 22. You then basically start here. We're going to start the first heart here. So that little foot of that, the little point at the bottom of the heart there, slots right between the G and the S. So that will be there. So, and then we don't start the next one until we finish the H. So basically, if you just want to do the next 4 rows, I will meet you once you've done row 25. So we will have started on this white heart, which is actually going to be burnt orange on mine, and we'll then be about to start on the other darker hearts. So yeah, I will see you after you've done row 25. Here we are then at the end of row 25, so we've definitely got our hugs now, which is good. You can see that's now it. There's no more of the actual lettering pattern to worry about now. It is just the hearts. So at the moment I've just done this row here, so I've just started on the bottom point of that heart, and then when we come on, the next one is going to start above, you can see right above the middle of this right hand leg of the H. Yeah, and one thing I should have said earlier is an apology really to left-handers, because I can't crochet left-handed, so I can't actually show you this from the perspective of a left-hander, because I can't flip the video around, because then obviously it won't say hugs, it'll say skr. So anyway, if you are left-handed, my apologies, but hopefully the chart, you'll be fine with that, because all you need to do is to remember, rather than reading it from right to left as I've been showing you, obviously as you're left-handed you'll be working the other way, so read the chart from the left to the right, and it is just a case of everywhere you see a blank square, you just remember to do a back loop double crochet. So you're double crocheting just into the back loops. On each end of every row you will have an ordinary double crochet where you'll work through both loops as an edge stitch, and the only ones you really need to worry about then in between is wherever you see an F, just make sure that is when you do your front loop treble 2 rows below. So I say again, apologies to left-handers, but you really wouldn't want to see a video of me trying to crochet left-handed. Anyway, I am now going to carry on. So at the moment we've just done row 25. I'm going to now go up to row 31, so that'll be when I get to the widest bit of my white heart here, my colour 1 heart. When you've done that row 31, I will see you there. Right, so that is row 31 done. So you can really see where the heart's going to be. I'm going to start shaping the top bit here. Say this one has just started as well, centered nicely above the H. So hopefully you're finding the chart nice and easy to follow. There's really not much more to say about it really. So if we just now carry on, so I will show you this after row 37. So we're going to do another 6 rows, and then this first heart will have been completed. So yeah, I will see you again at when you've finished row 37. Right, so this is what your work should be looking at like at the end of row 37. So we're almost finished now. There's just 4 more rows to go. So we say we finished this first heart here. This one has just got the top little bits to do, and then we're going to end up with just 1 row of back loop double crochet in our color one to finish it off. So not too much to go now. Yeah, so just carry on. Like I say, just hopefully you found this nice and easy to follow. And if you get stuck, the thing to do is to just stop and count, and then just compare what you've done to the chart to check that it looks the same, and if not, just follow it back, and that should show you where you've possibly gone wrong, but hopefully you haven't. Right, so here we have the finished square. You see we've got all these sorts of ends here. Now it depends really what you want to do with the square, what you're going to do with these ends. You can just sort of trim them to the same length and leave them as a pretty fringe, or if you wanted to maybe make a cushion or something out of this, then you can just do a border around the edge. And I've actually got a really nice easy way of doing a border, and also an envelope border you can do as well. So if you want to see the other side, maybe it was going to be a pot holder or something like that, I will show you in a separate video how to do an envelope border around it. But as it stands now, your little hug square is finished. And it should be square as well. Mine is 23 centimeters in each direction, because I used a double knitting yarn and my 4mm hook. You can, of course, if you wanted to maybe make it out of a cushion, you could use a thicker yarn like an Aran or worsted weight, or even a chunky, or indeed add some more rows top and bottom and stitches on each side. It's entirely up to you. But anyway, hopefully this is a little something just to brighten up the end of 2020.